allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. It's good to see people here tonight. Thank you all for coming out. My report will be fairly short. I did have in the last month, I was able to do back to school nights. Always encouraging to see the parents out, particularly the one in Whiting and off-on parents out. Very good to see. I had a day off from work, so I was able to go through the whole district and visit every preschool classroom. I think it's the same. All the other new classrooms we had for preschool, I was able to visit those classrooms, got to hear the songs. When I'm asking for a story, I think that's been a lot of years before since I had children that age. But it's very good to see the classroom, see what was going on, see how engaged. Just like it started on Monday, and I was there on Wednesday. So it's like they already had their routines down, they had their procedures down, they were functioning so well. Which is so interesting to see. My youngest grandchild is 7, so I don't have that age group anymore. So I got my grandfather next year, and I see all the little kids doing all these things, which is kind of right. And it was just enjoyable to me because I think we were going to pay a bit of this down the road. So it's been proven now that the very targeted education for children will achieve what they're able to achieve greater than as far as academics. And that's all I got. All right, Renato.
I'd like to invite Ms. Petroza and her curriculum team up here to do their presentation on the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see everybody here this evening. My team and I are here to briefly cover the NJSLA, BLM, and Access testing results from the spring of 2022. This is a rather lengthy presentation. It's about 57 pages, and I'm not going to go through it in such great depth because I did provide a PowerPoint and also a video of the presentation for the board to be able to review and also for the public. What I will tell you is that what we gleaned from it, sorry, what we did glean from it is that it's evident that COVID and the pandemic did have an effect on our testing outcomes and what we saw within our classrooms. However, with that being said, that seemed to be the actual testing results across the state of New Jersey. In New Jersey, there was a decline, and of course, we understand that based upon the way instruction was delivered, the way children were receiving it, and of course, also the testing cycle. In 2019, that was the last time our students took an NJSLA. So students that were in 6th grade essentially hadn't taken an assessment since they were in 3rd grade. Experience does have an ability to have an effect and impact on how they test, and we saw that in our results. In terms of our access scores, I'll share with you that we are increasing our population. Last year, we ended the year with 103 students. In the year previous to that, we had no more than 25 students, so we just continuously increased. Right now, we are at 113 students, K through 12. In terms of our testing for access,
What is access being?
access is the test that we give students that actually are English language learners. They're tested on speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And our scores actually were given to our students. Some of them are suppressed because we have less than 10 at the grade level. But you'll see that overall, we had 11 students that tested out of our program. That's really good based upon the learning situation that they were in. They have to get a 4.5 or better on their test overall. And we feel like that made great strides for our students. Here is actually a chart of our testing scores. We have 55 scores in K through 5, 19 and 6 through 8, and 24 scores overall. Where we want to be is in that reaching or bridging or see that we actually were able to increase our scores for the kids that have been in the program more than 3 years. What I will say, and I thank the board, is they allowed us during COVID times to have the ESL students come in for 5 days a week of instruction in person, and I think that made a difference, and we can see that in our numbers. Of course, when we give your scores, we have to do it by program, by race. Also, we need to do it by subgroup. And so all of that information is in our PowerPoint. In addition to that, we also have to report out the dynamic learning maps. That is actually the assessment that's given to students that are having cognitive disabilities. This test was given to 20 students across our district. And then you can see that we had 20 ELA scores, 20 math scores, and 10 students that took science. Where you want the students to be is in that green band on the top, advanced, or at target. Of course, I've spoken with our special service director, and we're working towards targeting instruction and how we can enhance that in the classrooms. Of course, really what I want to speak to you about is what do we do with these results? So we look at our results overall, and then we look at what kind of strategies, what kind of interventions we need. The board has allowed us to hire instructional coaches. So we have a math instructional coach at the elementary. We also have Wilson reading specialists that are supporting our students. We also have a district technology coach that goes in and supports to be able to give blended learning. Other than that, we are focusing on moving more towards a balanced literacy block. We've always done that, but because of COVID, it has become a little bit more whole group instruction, and we're moving back to, now that the environment is safe, giving the mini lessons, targeted instruction, going back to guided reading, and we do have a consultant coming in for readers and writers workshop. Of course, we are focusing once again on our tiered systems of support. We're focusing on social emotional learning, and we also are focusing on the free schedule that allows us to keep reference. There are strategies. Continuing with our tiered system support, working with our assessment committees, making sure that this data is being actionable within our classrooms, and making sure that our teachers are able to use this to be able to have a benefit to our students. Of course, we want to make sure we have articulation. That includes articulation with our neighboring partner, Lakehurst, which we are making sure that we share the fee with them. We're doing selection. Also, are branching them from 8th grade to our high school. And then, of course, in the back of this, we included some resources for families, all the different graduation requirements, the assessment accountability, and of course, we will be back again in December to go over the New Jersey graduation proficiency assessment. So if there are any questions, you certainly can ask at this time. Of course, I know I went rather quickly, but it is 57 minutes, and I can see, I thought you were all here for my presentation, but I yes, Mr. Reed.
We have a portfolio assessment for graduation requirement this year. Is that out there?
Fortunately, this particular graduating class, there is no portfolio. No. So
usually ask that or any other.
There actually is no need for a pathway for this year for those particular children. So typically we would do the CPR class that would allow us to do that. But this particular graduation class, because the NJGPA was a field test, we're in a kind of holding pattern for this particular group of students. So there is no pathway per se, no testing requirement for the students.
Is there any lobbying trend that they might be?
I don't think so. It's been, I mean, Mr. Adams, the team, Mr. George and I, we've sat on multiple webinars and had many conversations about it. As you know, we have a really good system in place in terms of portfolio, and we've been able to keep that number down very much. Last year, we actually used the portfolio system, so it was a little bit quite.
There's not a district in the state that did use it.
Say it again.
There's not a district in the state.
But they're not using it because there's no need for it. Yeah, which is a little bit perplexing because we used it last year for some of our seniors to be able to graduate. So to get that information, and I think we got it probably late August, right? It was kind of late because we already had been scheduling the CCR class, and we really wanted to make sure that we weren't putting our students at a disadvantage not having that class. But we have been told that there is no testing requirement, so therefore, no need for that particular class. Say you are correct, Mr. Payton. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we are going to do our student recognition presentation. We have some students here to recognize. We'll also be sending home certificates to the students that were recognized today. Okay, so first up from Ridgeway Elementary, we have Dalton Sardo. Is Dalton here with us? All right. So throughout the summer, Dalton Sardo, Tom's second grade class, made a difference in a very big way. Every Wednesday from 12 to 4, Dalton set up a lemonade stand out front of his house to support local charities. The profits from Dalton's work were donated to St. Jude Hospital, our local police department, and individual children in Ocean County who are battling cancer. Thank you so much, Dalton. All right, next from Manchester Township Elementary School, we have our junior impact officers, our president, Sarah R., vice president, Allison K., and secretary, Piamara M. So the MTES junior impact officers were elected by their grade level peers in early October. They will lead our 38-member club to make a difference in our community. Thursday, October 20th, they will represent MTES at our first Rotary breakfast, reporting our upcoming fundraiser to support victims of Hurricane Ian, where they will be selling ghost pops to our school community. A trip to the Memorial Garden is planned next week. Sarah, Allison, and Yes. At Whiting Elementary, we have Emma P. and Athena P. These students worked hard in our fall garden cleaning up to prepare for winter maintenance. Thank you for your service to Whiting School. Kudos to Mom for helping out too. Regional Day at Jackson, our students that were caught being kind. During the Week of Respect, students were engaged in a variety of lessons. Staff recognized student efforts when they were observed practicing positive social skills and strategies to be kind to their peers and adults. We have Stephen A., Marcus R., and Logan T. Congratulations. At Manchester Township Middle School, we'll be recognizing the semester's 8th grade STEM class. The 8th grade STEM class attended the 34th annual Beach Summit at Island Beach State Park. The summit was a seaside symposium providing a unique educational program combining peer-to-peer learning and an outdoor experience. The summit was an interactive, hands-on marine environmental experience at the Jersey Shore. You can see one of our friends there. Mrs. Driver, do you know what animal that is? The turtle? Oh, this is a turtle or tortoise. I didn't know. We didn't name him. And last but not least, we have Manchester Township High School. We are recognizing the boys cross country. Third consecutive B South Division title, 24-3 over the last 3 years, with a streak of 21 divisional matches alive. congratulations to all the students for recognizing them and for their hard work. We appreciate it. Next, I will move into my report, try to keep this brief. So first, I wanted to thank Ms. Gilbert, our student government representative, for being here today, and she'll be giving us a report. Thank you to Mrs. Petrosa and the curriculum team for putting that together. I know that almost 60 slides was not easy to prepare, and we appreciate you keeping that succinct. For the board members, I strongly encourage you to view the video, and I believe we're going to put the video and the presentation up on the website for parents to look at a little bit more and just kind of see the data. And also what's important to look at is the historical piece of this, of where our district was before COVID, and that's the rebound that we're going to have and get back to where we were post-COVID. A big thank you to the teachers and administrative team for hosting their back to school nights. I was able to get to most of them. Some of them we had double events, so I wasn't able to get to, but a really great night. And we have 2 upcoming preschool back to school nights. We have for our preschoolers that go to Whiting School on October 20th. We're going to be having our back to school night. And on November 2nd, for the students that attend Hilltop Preschool, we'll be having our back to school night. I had my first Java with John this past Thursday. We had a few parents come out. It's always great to have the community come out and give me some formal feedback, talk to me about what's happening. A lot of times we can work through any kind of issues that are happening. Our next one will be on November 30th at 6 p.m. We're going to do it right here. And you get some coffee, some snacks, and you get to have a conversation with me. And usually a lot of our administrators come as well. So it's a good time for you to come and give us some recommendations and feedback on the district. An overall preschool update for the board and the community. We are almost staffed. A big thank you to Mrs. Swift and then also to Ms. Greenstein. I know that you've been working tirelessly doing interviews and being able to staff. Ms. Greenstein has done an excellent job of manning Hilltop. We opened up our preschool classrooms this week. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to increasing the number of students that will be able to provide universal preschool. Congratulations to Mrs. Jill Moore. You'll see on the agenda tonight that I had a feeling that was going to happen. She is being recommended to take over to be the successor for Mrs. Waldron, and I'm confident that Mrs. Moore will do an excellent job carrying on the mission and the caring community that exists over at MTSD. So we're very excited for you to join us. We're very sad for Mrs. Waldron to be leaving, but we know that the school is in good hands. So thank you. To the board, thank you for attending the training today. We found it to be beneficial. And then thank you to the board members that are serving on the policy committee. Policies that appear on tonight's agenda have been vetted by the policy committee. We've been reviewed. We've made some revisions to that. And I think the policy committee has been a wonderful addition to the Board of Education. We have a few retirements this evening on the agenda. I'd just like to recognize those individuals. We have Jean McMorrow with 21 years of dedicated service. Ron Maddox with 13 years of dedicated service. And Dawn Smith with 20 years of dedicated service. So lastly, I just wanted to address, I know that there's some rumors that are going out. There's been a lot of traffic on social media. I received some emails, some phone calls from parents. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to address the community and the Board of Education about some of the things that are going on with our preschool expansion efforts. I know that there is a rumor that's out there that we are turning Whiting Elementary School into an early learning center. I just want to assure you that that is not the case. What we are looking to do is our district is going to engage in something that's called strategic planning, and that's going to happen beginning in January. And strategic planning is just a time for us to have some really important community conversations and get input from all stakeholders. We're going to be talking to students, families, administrators, teachers, to really have an idea of what's next for our community and what serves us best. When we accepted and applied for the preschool expansion money, what we had to do is guarantee that in 5 years, the district would be able to support in some way what they call to be our full universe. Right now, our full universe is expected to be close to 250 preschoolers. So that's for 3 and 4-year-olds, total of 250 students. So what we've been looking to do, and I know that the administrators over at MTS and Bridgeway have been very gracious in looking at their space to see if any expansion opportunities are available, any spaces available in our existing elementary schools. Currently, the reason why there are so many preschool classrooms over at Whiting is because there was a declining enrollment over at Whiting. So we were able to collapse a section. We normally would have 2 sections of kindergarten. There weren't enough students to have 2 sections of kindergarten. So that opened up an additional classroom, and really Whiting just had the most space right now for us to get the preschool program off the ground. Now, don't be mistaken that we certainly have to have conversations about what's next, and we do have changes that are happening to the community. We are experiencing a declining enrollment. Our community is changing. People are moving from one side of the town to the other. People are selling their homes. So really what we're going to have to do is be very strategic on our next steps and what our decisions are going to be. And that's not something that I'm going to be doing unilaterally. That's something that's going to be very transparent. Conversations are going to be had, and there'll be nights for you to come out and give us feedback on what's best for the community. So I just wanted to address that rumor head on, that that is not the plan, that is not in the application that we submitted to the Department of Education. But I want to be clear that with preschool, there are very specific expectations and regulations that we must adhere to. So those classes have to be a certain size. They have to have so much instructional space. They need to have storage. They need to have bathrooms. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at across the district to see where we can host and best house these preschool programs. So I just wanted you to understand our thinking. I do know that social media can be a really great platform for you to share ideas, but my office is always open. If you have questions, please email me, please call my office. The last thing I would want to do is to have rumors perpetuated on social media when I can simply address your concerns head on and answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
State Representative, you report this.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. Since you last saw the student representative in the middle of September to now, many of the student council members have been working hard from each grade to hold fundraisers and spirit events for the school. We welcomed our new freshman officers who ran a successful Buffalo Wild Wings fundraiser after the homecoming game on Friday. During the homecoming week, executive student government members organized a spirit week and a pep rally. And side note, it's the first real one that we've had since COVID, so we're working to get back to normal again. We had games, and the teachers and cheerleaders dance together. So throughout these days, leading up to the dance, the junior class sold tickets for pre-sale. They sold over 500 tickets altogether, creating for another successful homecoming and fundraiser. The sophomores held a food event at BJ's last night, and we're waiting to hear from the profits from both classes. Some future things to look out for is the senior run bake sale and the haunted walk led by the sophomore class at the Sugar Trunk on October 29th. As of right now, the junior and senior class are struggling to raise enough money for prom. Both classes have deposits down for venues, but recently we found out that we will need to raise around $10,000 per grade for buses. We welcome any help from the staff and parents to raise money, and fear that we might run out of time and fail to raise enough money and have to raise bid prices. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I don't know, you can answer better for you. Why are we taking buses for $10,000?
So nothing has been set yet. That's what some of the quotes have been. So we're looking around at some of the bus companies. The reason why we're taking buses, we did it pre-COVID. Last year at prom, a student went away, had an accident, and I'm the one that had to drive down to see the student in the car accident on 72. So prior to that, I guess about 3 years we did the buses. It worked very well. But I don't want to be in that position again. I don't want any parent to have me call them, and so that's why we're looking at buses.
Will all students be required to take the bus, or will there be exceptions?
All students will be required to take the bus.
That's for junior prom and for prom.
Yes. Now, usually the junior prom was in close proximity, so there really was no reason to take the bus. Both venues now are a little further away, so that's why both classes have to take the bus.
What day did you have to?
You know the vendors you have?
The mainland, and here might have their
What if they can't raise the $10,000?
You have to look again, in prior years, the cost of buses has always been an issue. And through fundraising and donations, we always came up with the money, so that's what we're looking to do. And talking with some of the student government leaders, they talked about doing some extra fundraising ideas to help us get the money. And then I have principals and council that I use for student activities. So I'm going to have my account, usually I use for scholarships, so I'm going to give each class $1,000.
Well, in previous years, they had 4 years to raise the money for us. Now you're giving them 8 months,
Correct. 4 years.
2 years of COVID. I don't remember any fundraisers going on.
No, there was not. I'm just going back. So by the time your freshman year, very little fundraising is going on. So it's really about 2 years they really have the fundraising. The sophomore class has a little fundraising, but majority of their fundraising and all the activities usually comes in their junior and their senior year.
How long have they known that they need this $10,000?
September. Thank you.
Just a couple of quick items. Just a quick note, we started the budget process for the 23-24 school year about a week and a half ago. So as that process continues, I will provide updates as we move along. The district also completed a snapshot on October 14th for our application for state school aid. Essentially what this report determines how much state aid the school district will get in the 23-24 school year. Some good news this year with the way we did our free reduced lunch applications through Genesis. We've increased our participation significantly over the last couple of years. That should help us with some additional funding. We will have a better idea of what our enrollment looks like when the state actually pushes down the report to us to start to review in early November. On the agenda tonight is the district comprehensive maintenance plan. This is something that the board has to approve every year. As a school district, we are required to do a minimum amount of maintenance on our district schools. Essentially what this report does is it gives you a 10-year snapshot on the money we have spent in our school district, in our schools, and obviously our district far exceeds the minimum that we have to do to keep our buildings looking the way they do. So essentially there's two reports. There's a report that gives you a 10-year snapshot of money spent, and there's a 3-year snapshot that shows you what we did 2 years ago, what we have in this budget, and what we're anticipating for next year. And again, that's just something that we have to get board approved every year just to show that we're meeting the requirement. And our last thing is, last month I did report we were waiting on the state employee health benefit program to finalize their renewal premiums for January. So they have come out, they have done that, and they have approved health premium increases of a little over 15%, and RX premium increases of a little under 8%. So these are some of the largest increases we've seen in 4 years. So what we are doing for the time being is we have requested our district experience. We want to see how Manchester Township is performing in the state health benefit plan, and we'll go from there. If it's something where we think we need to shop it out into the private sector, we'll do that. But for now, we're just waiting. We're waiting on that information to make that decision. Based on what was budgeted for the 22-23 school year, this increase potentially represents about a $250,000 shortfall in our district budget and about a $50,000 shortfall in our regional day school budget. Now, one thing that may help us is we've had a lot of transition with staff since we put our budget in place last May. We've had staff retire, we've had new staff coming in, so we're hoping that between the change in staff and the change in levels of coverage and things like that, that the amount we may be on the budget may be significantly less than that. So I won't know that until January because we are currently in our open enrollment period, and we are expecting a lot of staff members to change insurance plans because we have one that's based on where employee contributions are based on a percentage of the premium, and we have one where employee contributions are based on salary. And typically plans where contributions are based on salary are much cheaper for the staff. If we do see a swing from one plan to the next, that could have an impact on the overall impact of these renewals. And that's my report.
And just to further back that up, we go through a whole budget process, and it starts in October. We finalize our budget in February, early March. We give the county superintendent, runs it to the state, everything is fine. We budget all our insurance expenses. Nowhere from the state that they're considering raising prices of anything. And then they wait until 3 months into the school year. Oh, by the way, we're raising your prices 50%. Well, we're trying to figure it out. And it happens time after time after time. That's what we're facing. There's no reason to do a great job of handling it, but every district in the state is struggling because they didn't tell us. All right, any board member reports?
Yes.
Please keep them short. Please.
Thank you, Allison, for coming and representing student government, for all that you do for our school and to make things fun. I hope all your fundraisers are successful and everything works out. It'll be fun and exciting time. I got to attend the Manchester Township Elementary School and Manchester High School back to school night. Both were very, very well organized, and nice night to meet my children's teachers. I also got to attend the MTSD Barnes and Noble night. It was nice to see so many excited kids seeing their teachers outside of the classroom, and thank you to all the staff who participated in this fun evening. I hope that it was a good fundraising event for you guys. I'd also like to say thank you to the MTEA for hosting a beautiful dinner honoring our Teachers of the Year, ESPs, and other individuals. It was a very nice dinner to be part of. I am the liaison from the CPAC to the Board of Education. I joined their meeting late. It was virtual because of my children's soccer schedule. When I did join, they were going over the survey from the extended school year. Mr. Baronato, Mrs. Antonucci, and several other leaders from our district were in attendance and got to answer some questions and go over some concerns that the parents did have. They already have plans working on improving transportation, which is one of the issues that people spoke about. So they're looking for an even more successful ESY program next year. Their next public meeting is December 6th via a Google Meet, so you can find out information on that on our district webpage. Mr. Kelleher, Mr. Giorgiano, and I got to be part of the policy committee meeting to review and revise some of our current policies. Sometimes our hands are tied. Some of them do come as strict directives. Other ones we were able to work on and tweak a little bit to hopefully meet the needs a little bit better of our Manchester Township School employees and children. The homecoming game and dance was a hit. I didn't do it at dance, but I heard lots of nice things about it. Pep rally was lots of fun, and it was nice to see everybody dressed up who was nominated for the King and Queen. And that's my report.
Once again, Ms. Mel, once we report about the special parents, please put that in public participation. It's not, so it does not belong in this part. It belongs in the end. Please. All right, anyone else? Hearing none, we'll ask for open the board public participation for agenda item only. Anyone who cares to address the board for anything that's on the agenda tonight? And share your concerns.
Does the agenda account for?
Yeah, my glasses, I can't see the mark, sorry. Okay.
Me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Does the agenda account for speaking about the wedding school shelter in
I'm
place?
sorry, I cannot. You might come to the podium. Please identify yourself and where you, your address as well, please, when you're there. I'm getting cold when you're talking about these.
Good evening. My name is Erin Matula. My daughter Maddie attends middle school, and my sister Sam attends the Whiting Elementary School. And my question, I guess, to address the agenda is that including the shelter in place for Whiting Elementary School? Yes.
That's not agenda item.
Okay. I guess I could have done it.
Yeah, normally that would happen at the end for the second comment, but please, I mean, you're up there, so. You're fine.
I'd rather you stick to your schedule, I'm sorry.
No, it's really fine, you're up there, so.
My question is, what is the district policy for notifying parents of the shelter?
Sure, so typically, the regulation supports that if it's a drill, by the end of the day, we notify, usually via Blackboard, that the drill can happen. In this scenario, it was a shelter in place that was recommended that came from the police department, and needed a few minutes to be able to investigate a situation and report that they had. That was about 3/4 of a mile away from the school. At that point, we had already dismissed our 8 to 5 students that were still in the building, were attending their Wildcats Academic Club, the Y Kids, and then we were just about to dismiss our general education preschool. So out of abundance of caution, they asked for us to kind of hold them, wait before we loaded the buses, so they can investigate that. And then they quickly reached out to us and released us from the shelter in place. So that way they would be able to, go down the buses and go home. The difference between a shelter in place and a lockdown is that the threat is not necessarily credible. They just want to do some investigation. So instruction still continues. 99% of the time, the students don't even realize that there's a shelter in place that's happening, and there's no immediate threats to the building, meaning like someone right around the building that could potentially cause harm to the building. So in this case, it was recommended that we go into the shelter in place rather than dismissing the remaining students. So once I was able to gather all the information, I did send out an alert last evening, an email that went out explaining the scenario. I do wish that it was a little bit more time that we were able to get that out. I did not realize that the police department was going to put out. He told me what Nexium was. I didn't know what Nexium was. So now I know. I'm sorry?
Nixel.
Nixel, thank you. Nexium is a prescription drug. Nixel alert. I didn't realize, I thought that they were just putting out there that they had looked into the incident and they weren't going to mention school. So, but I can assure you that, as soon as it happened, I was on the phone with Chief Dolan, and I was able to work through it along with Mr. George, who handles all of our safety concerns, to make sure there was no threat. What I can assure you is that in the future, I'll make sure that the principal of the building also sends something out immediately, so that way you are aware of the incident a little bit more timely.
I really appreciate you saying that it could have been done in a more timely fashion for the parents rather than within the 5 hours. So that we're not waiting 5 hours to hear from the district. Because yesterday my daughter and I did have a drill in the middle school. And in a shorter duration of time, we were notified typically on the drill. But it seemed to take a little bit longer than most parents expected for an actual event.
I don't disagree with you, so we'll make sure that it goes out. And again, typically, I think because it happened at dismissal for one of the events and we're working on 2 different schedules, there was a step that was missed with the building piece being able to send out some immediate communication and a follow-up for me. But with a shelter in place, it typically means that there's no immediate threat that instruction is continuing. So that's why, but you're absolutely right, it can be more timely, and I can assure you that we will do that at the building level.
Thank you.
You're very
I
welcome.
appreciate it. I didn't want me to do money and everything, but it's okay. Okay. I know my husband will.
We can wait for new business or something.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we're good.
My name is Christina Bush. I'm at two children at Reading Elementary. And from my perspective, when I got that message yesterday, I was at work 25 minutes away. My kids are at home. I have no idea what's going on. And by getting the Manchester police mix-up, it was a little alarming because we didn't know exactly what it was. So not having that follow-up right away, and I understand things happen at the school, they get busy, and someone at the district level should have sent out a message right away. Instead, I'm calling my husband home to go get my kids, because I don't know what's going on. And I don't know what the water use protocol is. It probably is not their place to notify us of something like that, it should come from the district. But waiting 5 hours it was very, that's not okay. I mean, we're in a world right now where, you know, we are trusting you guys with our kids. So to have a shelter in place, and still, there should still be that little bit of urgency to notify us that everything is okay with you guys, instead of just the messages from the police department. And not everybody gets those alerts. I just don't have to get them, so I would appreciate that, and just typically appreciate a little more discipline urgency on situations like that.
Thank you. I don't disagree, so thank you for coming up and sharing that.
So are we sticking to open, just to
Well, it should be
clarify?
agenda items only at this point.
Okay, so we'll do the agenda items and then we'll go to new business? Sure.
I just got a couple things, probably jump around on a couple different topics. My name is Tom Doherty. My address is 321 Coolidge Ave, Whiting, New Jersey. Just wanted to get a little bit more detail about the future planning of this preschool expansion and all of this. I just wanted to make sure that to ask you guys where you're getting your data from, you know, who's moving where, what populations are you collaborating with the community planner in Manchester and all that stuff. And there has to be, if you could please go into a little bit more detail of a baseline strategy, the starting off point, because we asked for the funds, we got the funds. There's got to be at least a base plan. If you could share that with us, it'd be appreciated.
Sure. So right now we have our base plan. We've exceeded what we were required to do in year 1 and year 2. So currently we're hosting preschool for the number, I want to say 120 students. And so the 120 students are dispersed between Whiting Elementary, which has 4 classrooms. We have an integrated class at SEES. We have an integrated classroom at Ridgeway, and then we've opened 3 classrooms at Hilltop, which we're using, we're leasing space from them. So I'm sure you understand when we lease that we're spending money to lease the space. We have to provide additional cleaning services, additional staff to work at a satellite location. It's not feasible to maintain that long term. So part of our plan was in 5 years, we would be able to look to be able to tour sooner and be able to bring those students back to one of our district sites. So part of what will happen beginning in January is we'll have a series of community conversations where people can come out and hear about, you know, what's happening and what some of the plans. But again, we've exceeded that what we're required in year 1. So we're not looking to change any structure right now. Looking back on the history of Manchester, there's been several changes that have happened in different buildings. I know at one point I'm hearing that Whiting had kindergarten and 7th and 8th grade there at the same time. So it's not uncommon to have changes that happen as your community changes, but it's not something that we're going to do next year that we're looking to be able to change immediately. The change, any kind of change would be gradual. So we'd be looking to make sure that we're able to support the community, support the programs, and then also be able to sustain any programs we are implementing financially.
Explain to me the curriculum for this, the preschool expansion, how it's benefiting children, and you know, is it going to give the entire community a leg up on kindergarten, where now we can instead of having to pull up from the bottom, like level the kids out basically, because some kids are smarter than us, some kids are well, not even smart, some kids have been taught more, and some kids haven't had a chance to learn. So is the goal to raise the baseline and then start at a higher curriculum in kindergarten and continue, or?
Sure. Do you have a preschooler?
I have first grade.
Okay. So I would encourage you, we're having 2 back-to-school nights, and a piece of what's going to happen at the back-to-school night is an orientation piece that would explain the curriculum. The state of New Jersey only approves a few curricula that we can use, one of them being creative curriculum. Creative curriculum is basically learning through play and being able to offer various themes throughout the classroom. So for instance, we could have a theme on trees, and all of their centers would be surrounded around a theme of trees. And the social cues would happen within those centers. It's teacher and the teacher assistant being able to support it. So having conversations about what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and really the idea behind having preschool within our district is being able to provide high quality preschool that would encourage kindergarten readiness. And kindergarten readiness looks very different. There are some, kindergarten is even required by law, a full day program. Even we don't even have to have students in kindergarten. So there are some families that decide to homeschool for kindergarten, and then their first time entering is first grade. Now here in Manchester, we've been able to support a full day kindergarten for several years, which has given us a huge advantage. And really, the bottom line to answer your question is the research supports that the earlier we intervene, the better off that students are and the less services they'll need. Research supports that if they're not reading on grade level by third grade, they likely never will read on grade level. So the idea is to front load the instruction, so that way students are learning beginning at 3 years old, so that way from 3 to 5, we can look at implementing development in the appropriate curricula that supports them to be ready to read and write and learn when they turn 5 and enter kindergarten.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to change the topic to you guys were talking about budget, fundraising, and it's just, are there any programs out right now where we're trying to bridge the gap between communities within the town? We have very large elderly community, and slightly smaller, non-elderly community. Is there anything happening where you can synergize two communities, which in turn can raise the, sway votes in terms of budget, budget model?
Sure. So we currently don't vote on our budget anymore. That was a change that happened. So we're allowed to increase the budget with the Board of Education vote up to 2%. And then we also can use surplus. There's various other funding sources. Our curriculum team, our special education team, and then also with the influx of the COVID support money, the ESSER, ARP money, we've been able to do that. So for instance, our curriculum team puts together entitlement grants that allow for Title I, Title II, and Title IV, also Title III for our ELL students. So there is supplemental funding that comes in to support, elevate, and enhance our instruction. We also get IDEA money that supports special education initiatives. We get additional funding for special education for extraordinary aid for students that need services above and beyond what the district can provide. So what I can tell you is that we're utilizing every piece of grant money that comes in, and that will actually, you can go onto our website and we have a budget report that's on there. It's a user-friendly budget. Is the best one for you to look at, and you'll actually be able to see how much money we're putting towards entitlement pieces, supporting at-risk youth, ELLs, and then also supporting social and emotional learning. So those are the different pockets of money. But over the past couple of years, because of COVID, we've had an influx of money that's come in millions of dollars, and it's been really great to help us during COVID. The biggest issue that we have as a community is once that money runs out, anything that we're looking to see has to be supported by our general budget. So that's why we're looking at this as change may be necessary, because also we get funding from the state based on our per pupil expenditure. And if our enrollment is declining, that means we get less money. So overall, the compounding effect of the declining enrollment and only going up 2%, we all know that inflation is but higher than 2%. There are some problems down the road for the district. So we just need to make sure that we stay ahead of it and we stay proactive.
How would we say proactive?
Well, preschool expansion would be one example of that, because there's funding that comes in for that. And so, for instance, there's offsets that we can do with salary. So there are certain supports that we share services across the district, where now we have grant funds that come in for preschool that support the instruction that happens in elementary level, so the burden doesn't fall completely on the taxpayers.
As addressing to the senior communities, before COVID, the world's changed. We had some wonderful programs with the senior communities here in town. See, the retired teachers would come in and mentor students one-on-one and struggling in certain areas. And if you look at our holiday drive that we have every December, the senior community is very, very generous in contributing to people that don't have as much of those kind of things. I know at one point our high school, when they were preparing their history classes, actually had World War I, not World War II, not one or two. World War II survivors come in and recording their oral histories of what they experienced in their or not only that group of students they have, but our future students in our high school have actual first-hand experiences of like being what it was like to be in Korea, what it was like to be in Vietnam. And we reached out, we used to have a very vibrant here again, everything has changed. But hopefully we can get back to some of that at least. But, we're about how it was the parents coming. There's no way we could invite seniors. And so, what we have in our past, we have been very, very interested and inclusive in bringing in as many seniors in whatever way. Our elementary school students, our middle school band, they go to their villages and do Christmas concerts and other holiday concerts and that sort of thing. Make them feel as though they are part of the community. And if you come to our graduation, our awards night, and you hear the amount of millions of dollars that senior citizens we are interested in contributing to our students for their education. One's focused on one group, they do $45 million to see over the past 10 years or something. A lot of money coming from large trusts. They were an older couple that had moved they usually west from New York, didn't have any children, so they put it in the will when they died, and when it came to our students for college education, it was billions of dollars. And they didn't put kids through the school.
I just remember growing up here and having fun.
What year did you graduate?
Excuse me?
What year did you graduate?
2004?
2004, you're right. My son was 2005. Oh, you did? Okay. I don't know if it's good or bad thing. We'll go from there. All right. But yes, we did use that vote on the budget and it all came down to the University of Town Hall and everything was that. But that was about 2008 times in that range.
Yeah, it was a little before 2008. I got here in 2008. We were working on it.
So we don't they're had to do that. So but we do reach out as much as we possibly can to senior people. I live in the town, so I'm constantly playing it up to my neighbors and stuff about the school system and many of them would love to be more involved, but just can't.
I have one more fundraiser related, but more towards the junior senior prom. I know myself, I know Mr. Boss over there. There's a lot of
Mr. Boss graduated my son, so he was in it.
That's right. There's a lot of us still in the community, a lot of ex-athletes and all that. Just off the top of my head, is like, would it be possible with Mr. George's support or anyone's support, to have a community fundraiser in which maybe the varsity sports teams play the All-Star alumni as a fundraiser? Maybe not this year.
Many districts do that.
Right, maybe not this year, but in order to help your.
I remember back I think we used to do it with hockey, basketball. That was a lot of fun. But those activities haven't occurred in the past. Here again, COVID is shut down.
Yes. I'm saying we have a lot of, I know a lot of people that still who would be willing. So it's an idea to float if anyone wants to take it.
I think we probably need to register for that. I think you'd be the permission point to do something like that.
And my last thing is off topic, but it's kind of on piggybacking over here. Can you please detail the security measures that are taken to prevent active shooters on the day, like the day of work? I see a car parked outside from pointing. That. But if you could just explain to me how it is for those types of situations, which are troubling.
So I'm going to just briefly answer the question, and then, like I said, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can sit down and I can go over in a little bit more detail some of the things that we're doing. But Mr. George and I meet with the Manchester Township Police Department quite frequently, and I have to say, before, so he meets with them even more than I do. But some of the things that we're in the process of doing, because we've had to make some changes, we're looking at some of the vestibules across the district to be able to emulate the way that it is if you go into lighting school. So that way there's 2 sets of doors and an area where they can communicate and see people visibly through a side window. We're looking at security enhancements. We've upgraded several cameras across the district that have vantage points inside and outside. We have an overlay map that the police department has where we can identify through an app called Share 911 if there's any sort of a security risk to the district, be it a lockdown, intruder, all of those things are captured within the application. Another layer of support that we're going to be putting into the schools is a system called Raptor, which is a visitor management system. So that way when visitors come to the district for the first time, they have to provide their license. So we actually run a background check on them, so that way we can make sure that they can be in school on school property. And then also we have a log of the individuals, they can wear a name tag when they come in. So these are some of the enhancements that we're doing. In addition to that, we're also, by January, we'll have a class 3 officer in each of the buildings, including lighting. So we would have one in each of the elementary schools. We would move to have an SRO here at the middle school. And then at the high school, we have an SRO in addition to 2 security personnel individuals that are at the high school. So we do take the safety and security very seriously. And there's been enhancements. There's been some grant money that we've been putting towards that. This was running some local money around to support some of these initiatives and be able to have officers, armed officers in each building. You're very welcome.
I'll tell you after you say hi. All right, anyone else? I like this.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Heather Kramer from Hollywood. So I have some questions regarding on the agenda. Simple questions, but just some clarification.
Do you identify what section and which one?
I don't know what section, because I wrote all my notes on one page here. So, I guess the budget area where you talked about the work that's going to be done on buildings and the budget for that. So, in those funds in that plan, is there anything that I know you're going to laugh. Like every year I say to you, the perimeter of the grounds, not just the building, but around the playground. I know we have, most schools have a small fence. You should seriously talk to more security related people that I'm from the field regarding increasing that height of that fence. Check what the local laws and ordinances are for hunters. How far, like, you can't steal drugs so many miles in the school districts. Maybe you shouldn't be able to carry, whether you're licensed or not, so many, miles around a school. Just some things regarding the other nights, or last night.
That would not be under that would not be under us. We have no conveyance over state laws and carrying guns or anything like that.
No, I understand that. I was asking, maybe that would be a good question that the district approach to the state lawmakers to protect our children more. Because yes, that individual was a licensed hunter. That doesn't mean he wasn't a threat. He was just licensed. Could have been a threat. And then also, if there are laws regarding that, then they should be pressed against the person who didn't know they were in the school area. I see lots of transition of staff from one school to another, lots of retiring, lots of new hires, which I'm assuming it's a new position. I'm assuming it's all the preschool areas. And just a quick question, the current positions that were vacant, are they filled? I know in the beginning of the year we were looking good, but we still had some spots. So our current positions, are we down again? Do we have gaps in the existing schools?
So that's a loaded question, but the answer is 99% of our positions are filled. The issue is that when we take a teacher or any individual from another school district, they have a 60-day wait for the district to hold them. So while we've hired someone for a position, there's a little bit of a gap in the time because the 60-day count for someone leaving here starts the minute they submit the letter, where the 60-day count for hiring an individual typically doesn't start until the day after the board meeting. What has helped expedite this process was the board event giving the ability to hire a team, which allows for people to give their notice the minute that we hire them. That's not on this agenda, so that's going to be a limitation forward, that if there is a retirement or resignation, their 60-day time starts immediately, then we post the position, we interview, we have to wait for the next board meeting, and then have the 60 days from there. So we filled 99% of the positions, we're just waiting for some staff members to be released from the current district.
But there are still open positions, even if, no one's applied for. Is that still the case?
Well, I'm
like an English teacher here that isn't, so we have all of our slots are kind of planned to be filled soon?
99% of them are filled. There's one position at Regional Bay that right now we are time carding teachers to support that.
And then I see Whiting has a list of volunteers. Fantastic, Whiting. What is the purpose of that? And do the other schools have that opportunity? And how do parents get on that?
That's usually put up on the principals, so principals ask for the volunteers, and usually they come back and do like one more. We've always had it all.
Well, I've just never seen it on a board.
It's just been COVID, so we haven't been able to.
Yeah.
We even use the support, and we use the support if there's a representative that comes from Ocean County, and he actually works with, it's called the Mentors Program, where they work with typically our fourth and fifth grade students. I believe his name is Barry. He comes and he met with me. He'll meet with each of the principals, and what they do is they solicit people that live within Manchester that want to come in and volunteer, and then they vet them, they work with them, they kind of support them with anything that they're doing, conversations with students. So that's beginning to happen. I mean, we have to remember that it's only October, right? So as time goes on, Whiting is a smaller school, so they're able to reach out and get more support in that aspect. But all the principals are always looking for volunteers. That is a plug for anyone that wants to volunteer in our schools. They just have to simply reach out to the building administration, and then they have to do a couple of trainings and acknowledgments. But they can come and support our students in any way possible. The other piece is that there are some people that are specifically reaching out to volunteer in our preschool programs. And so that you see on there is the support where bulk of our preschool programs are in Whiting. And any staff member that's working at a satellite location like Hilltop is a Whiting employee, because Hilltop is not one of our district recognized district schools in the state.
Do our CPAG volunteers need to be listed and be approved, or not in a day, I guess? Usually like that. Okay.
These are volunteers that are working specifically with students.
They come into the school and actually interact, interface with the yeah, anyone that's doing anything after school or on their own, privately.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. Oh, but what is Blackboard? We should have sent the notice via Blackboard. What is
So Blackboard is our mass communication that comes through when you get an email, an alert, or you get a text message on your phone. That's the platform that we use. It's Blackboard. Chris, is there another name that comes through on there?
No, it comes up as Matt from Manchester. So this is like an email or a text. So yeah, it's just a back-end system we use.
Like the robocall.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't need another app.
No.
Thank you.
All right. Well, once again, anyone else have anything they'd like to?
I have a question, but I don't want to go up to that.
As long as you're loud enough.
If I have to?
No,
Okay,
as long as I can hear you, you're fine.
So I have a question. I know you said like the district is changing, but is your plan in the future as you foresee it, do you plan on turning one of the elementary schools into an early development?
So that's not really my decision. I would not unilaterally say this school is now preschool. Those are part of a community conversation that we're going to have about where we can house those students. The goal is always, and this is special education, general education, every student that resides in Manchester deserves to go to school with their chronological peers.
Okay.
So if possible, without impacting the budget, we would like for students to go to their home school. But I cannot say to you with 100% confidence that we're not going to be housing more preschool programs at one elementary school versus another simply because of space.
Okay, well, I understand that that's your concern. I know that Hollyoaks is getting bought out. I know that there's going to be a lot of IEPs. I know that they're going to be taking a lot for funding and paying for that. I understand that. But my concern again is my second grader or third grader being bused 20 minutes when they're ready to be bused for their whole entire career and they're across the district.
We've always dealt with homeschool.
Well, I'm definitely not homeschooling. That's
No,
not
I mean,
an
in our homeschool where you live.
You live.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why we're not homeschooling.
Okay.
Homeschool. Okay. I lived in Hollyoaks for 32 years.
Okay.
And my kids went, well,
I went to Whiting too.
My daughter went to Whiting in first grade, then she came to Ridgeway for second grade, and then she was third grade in BS, so she had all three of them. But we do, I have not heard any conversations for whatsoever
Okay.
in doing that.
And when does the grant run out for the preschool program?
It's not a grant, so it's student aid. So just like when a 5-year-old enrolls in kindergarten,
Okay.
like Mr. Lorenzen had said, every October 15th, we have to submit a snapshot, and that's what predicates and gives us the support and funding for the following year. It would be the same thing, those preschoolers are part of that, so as long as the enrollment continues to go up, we would get state aid for any 3 and 4-year-old, just like we would anyone through 5, all the way through 12.
So you're saying on your end, the board will not be voting at any point, it will be a community-wide vote if the school would be changing, that's what you're saying? You wouldn't follow anything with the
It
state?
would be a community vote, it would be community input for the board to vote.
So, but you're not saying that necessarily that you would take our decision you would take our decision in, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be your choice overall.
It would be the board's vote that would go towards reconfiguring, just like anything that's been historically in this town, any reconfiguration that occurs, any additional building that happens, we've elected the Board of Education members to make decisions on behalf of the community. And part of our responsibility is to hear what you're saying. And I think it's important to note that we have 5 years to figure this out. No one is doing this next year.
Okay.
So anything that's going to happen, I was a former first grade teacher. I'm not asking to rip students out of their home school and say, now this is your new school.
Okay.
But we have to remember too that there's a whole community here that's at stake to make a decision. So we have to do what's best for the entire community. And then also we have to look at the financial impacts of any decision that we make.
Okay, I understand that, thank
And
you.
the preschool program is mandated by the state soon.
I think the preschool
We're just one of
program
the
is
first
good thing, and
districts
I'm
to get
happy
it.
that the district is now offering it. I was concerned, again, for like you said, the Whiting kids grew up, I grew up in Whiting, and there's like it's like as you go up to high school, you're still friends. And I don't want that to be disturbed. I mean, that might sound selfish, and I understand what you're saying financially, the school district has to be able to support itself, so I get that. So, thank you.
Were you here when they went through the whole MTS, whether they should build MTS or not? Were you here when?
Yeah,
Yeah, you remember that whole?
no, I don't. I
Okay.
do not
You-
remember that.
I want to say that was 1990, I'm waking up with that. All right, but community input came from all over the place.
Okay.
Whether or not to build, I'm sorry, Miss Farley, I'm sorry. This is more, she'll always be Miss Farley. All right? This is more of a shared teaching at that point coming through. And community input came from all over the place, whether or not they should actually build ES or not.
Okay.
It opened in 1992. The board had to vote, but it was through the community input.
Okay, perfect, thank you very much.
You're most welcome. All right, anyone else? Sorry, Neil. I don't know why I can get comment on this part of it.
I'll always be voting.
All right, anyone else? All right, let's move on to the action part of the meeting, please. Oh, wait, any old business, any correspondence? I'm sorry.
No business, no correspondence.
All right, thank you. All right, section 1A, new business, numbers 1 through 3. Any motion? Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. No, okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Keller. Yes. Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Georgiano. Mr. Murphy. Ms. Winkler. Ms. Mount. Mr. Reed.
Yes. B, buildings and ground, number 1, any motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for roll call.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant. Ms. Georgiano. Mr. Murphy. Ms. Winkler. Ms. Mount. Mr. Reed.
Yes. C, contracts slash agreements, numbers 1 through 3, any motion? Any discussion?
That's not great. It says resolution to approve the agreement between Manchester Township School District and Plumstead preschool instructional coach. Will that be an even split?
Yeah,
So what this is Plumstead was just approved for preschool, universal preschool as well. What we're doing is we're doing a shared service with our PIC, our preschool instructional coach. So 1 day a week she'll go to Plumstead. 4 days a week she'll be here, and then Plumstead will pay for that time.
Plumstead, we pick up 40% of the salary.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Call for roll call.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Georgiano. Mr. Murphy. Ms. Winkler. Ms. Mount. Mr. Reed.
Yes. Section 2, the administrative, number 1 through 5, any motion? Any discussion?
Policy 3134 is a question that you noticed that it doesn't these performance money extra duties maybe consider the teaching staff member evaluation? Is there a date that they need to be informed about any changes to their evaluation? I know, like, for me, like, I have to pull the broader benefits on, like, the criteria for me.
So historically, we've never included any of those extra duties to be part of their evaluation. The framework that we use, that's really for non-instructional staff, non-certified staff, because the Danielson framework that we use for teachers wouldn't even correlate to, let's say, less duty. So the only thing that would be referenced in there would be like a level of professionalism or conduct on becoming that would happen during those times. So it would be aligned to the framework that they have access to already and have been trained on.
Do we have issues with the staff not wanting extra?
No, this is just a backup policy to 3270 that we had. It was called a cross-reference policy, and basically just gives jurisdiction to the building administration to be able to assign those duties as needed. So for instance, lunch duty, bus duty, hall duty, those types of things that are all really over the jurisdiction happens from the collective bargaining unit or agreement, not unit.
All right, anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Servant? Ms. Georgiano? Mr. Merkin? Ms. Winger? Ms. Mount? Mr. Payton?
Yes. B, personnel number 1 through 62, any motion, please? Discussion?
I just have one clarification on number 35. Yeah, the school is MTS. Number 35.
All right, any discussion? Not here. Hearing none, I'll call for roll call.
Mr. Keller?
Yes, all standing on number 11.
Mrs. Servant? Ms. Georgiano? Mr. Merkin? Ms. Winger? Ms. Mount? Mr. Payton?
Yes. All right, C, student personnel, number 1 through 2. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for roll call.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Servant? Ms. Georgiano? Mr. Merkin? Ms. Winger? Ms. Mount? Mr. Payton?
Yes. D, special services, number 1. Need a motion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Servant? Ms. Georgiano? Mr. Merkin? Ms. Winger? Ms. Mount? Mr. Payton?
Yes. Section 3, A, finance, numbers 1 through 5. Motion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Servant? Ms. Georgiano? Mr. Merkin? Ms. Winger? Ms. Mount? Mr. Payton?
Yes. All right, now we'll move forward for public participation on any item. If you'd like to bring before the board, if it's not in the agenda. Small group.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to talk to you at the last board meeting, but I thought it would be best just to wait for tonight. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for the unselfish work that you do on the sport of education. And certainly to you, Mr. Pate, for trusting in Mr. Tretheway's recommendation of you back in 2014. I think at that time, I was working on a board member. Currently, I'm not at that time. So these past years have been quite the journey, and I've learned so much from these great administrators that sit in this room tonight, and for those that have moved on before me. Teaching is truly a gift, and Manchester is blessed with so many gifts. And I continue to be amazed and awed by the teachers and the staff in this district, especially those that I have grown to care so much about at MTS. I've had the pleasure of hiring many of them, and I am truly proud of the teacher leaders that we have in our building. And it has been my honor to serve as the principal. And I'm proud of the strong relationships that I've built with the families of the students students over the years, and I look forward to spending time with our students over the next few weeks, because I truly will miss them the most. They have filled my heart with joy and happiness, and I will always believe in them. I look forward to the next chapter in my life, but really, however, until tonight, I really didn't feel much like celebrating. I want to thank Mr. Veronato for making that recommendation to all of you tonight. In support of Mrs. Jill Moore as the next principal of MTS. It truly was the right thing to do. And as I mentioned to you last week, Mr. Veronato, when she announced it to our staff on Friday, I am so surprised that you didn't hear the happy screams from everyone at MTS. It was truly amazing. I have to say that knowing that my replacement, being my right-hand person all these years, gives me such a comfort and a level of peace that truly makes my decision to leave education after 26 and a half years so much easier. Tomorrow, we are having a good news assembly, and we will be announcing my retirement. I'm going to try to explain it to 4 and 5, 10-year-olds, and then we are going to introduce them to them who they already know and love. So all is good at MTS. I thank you for all that you did to make this happen. And I hope that our paths cross again today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I speak first? It's okay, you know how to.
I would just like to take this chance to thank Mr. Bernardo and the board as well for this opportunity. I have been in Manchester a very long time. I started at waiting in 1990 and walked through the doors at MTS the first time almost exactly 30 years ago in 1992.
January 1992.
So when I walked through those doors in 1992 as a teacher, I did not think that I would be able to lead the amazing team of MTS. And to have that honor and this opportunity is really a blessing. I so love the families of Manchester and the students, and I think my families and the students who know that. And the support that I've been given over this time has been phenomenal. So I just really want to thank you for that. Well, it was a non-agenda. I learned the rules.
Fair enough.
Been years. So just two things. I recently attended two virtual meetings on HIV and suicide prevention that the district offered, one through Regional Day School and one through our Special Services Department. And one thing that stood out in both of the presentations to me was we have a huge gap, and when I say we, I mean, I don't know if it's national, but it's definitely statewide, in the definition of when, why, and where bullying can occur, and when a school is required, or a district is required to step in. And that gap occurs online and when things are at home, so off school property. And as long as those kids don't bring it into the school, essentially, and I'm not saying we are, this is an overall observation, but essentially the school is blind and they don't see it, or a district is blind and they don't need to address it because it hasn't affected school or the child in school. It's not occurring on the ground. One of the statistics that was so disturbing is that suicide between the ages of 8 to 12 has risen 54% since COVID. So as a parent, that's concerning, and I perked up. So I plead with our Board of Ed members, I know you just went through your policies and you've addressed things, but please look at the district policies on him and the hand that the district and the schools and the staff currently take, are permitted to take, are legally required to take, and go above it, find a way to reach those kids. I have heard time and time again, I call the school, they don't do anything, they get my kids in trouble, and he or she's not doing it, and nobody's helping, and the recourse that a parent has is talk to the other kid's parent. But that doesn't happen too often. That is a dangerous. Send a mama bear into someone else's cave and see what happens. I don't see that happening being a positive outcome. Or go to the police. So we have these extremes and nothing in the middle. And the state hasn't defined a path to truly support these kids that are struggling. And ultimately, I mean, you know, somebody had, on one of the meetings, made a comment, it was an educator had made a comment that they're so tired of hearing SEL, social emotional learning. If a child is being bullied at any time in their life, they're in crisis. We have these crisis plans in place for when a child loses a parent or has a tragedy. But we have this gap that we need to fill. And I plead with parents that sit on our board to really look at it and try to find a way that we can reach out and support these kids a little more, because we don't have those statistics in Manchester.
Another stat, if I may.
Don't do 2 meetings in one night on that topic.
And this framework might throw out there. Another stat that is just as alarming is that staff suicide rose 69%. So it's not just the students that are suffering from this, it's the staff as well. And we walk that line, we have to bear on both sides.
Absolutely. 100%. So we're hurting as a country, as a world, but if we can just help Manchester a little bit, we're doing some good. Happier note, prom. We hear you're struggling. So just want to make a suggestion to reach out to local businesses and see if there's any ways that they can help you. I'm also an alumni in Manchester, and we support the school lots of ways through my family business, and we have for years. And I will reach out to your coordinators again to offer our services, and hopefully they share them with you. I know my business has some great ideas as a fundraiser and in the community, and I know lots of other people can think outside the box and help our kids, and again, grow that community. Support the businesses. We in this room will always support you, but if you're really struggling, you have to let the community know as well, and we'll stand up for you. We'll come out. Thank you.
That's not a good job.
I'll get there eventually.
Musical chairs for a while, if you got it.
All right, so my name is Martin Chula. I have 2 children. I live out in Whiting. One is in MT middle school, and one's in Whiting Elementary School. So I live on Lincoln. My wife addressed everything earlier. Some of the things that I have concerns with, and no secret to many people here already know me. I am a law enforcement officer. I do have additional interest in it. Township president, children. So I look at things a little differently. In reference to the one call that happened out in Whiting with the hunter, I'd first like to thank Mr. Garnado for addressing this. And yes, you know what? The ball was dropped and that won't happen again. So I don't want to be the dead horse thing. Just to expand a little bit, some people may have not known or not heard about it. It went out on Manchester Patch sooner than it was even something else that we knew about, which is alarming that it was in the news before anybody else had heard. Again, you know, like freedom of press, things are out there, but we would like to get some information ahead of time. But using that and some other information, that call came out within minutes. Shelter in place. There was a few things to address within that. I found out later on that In particular, there's a classroom in there, inside of the library. So if you go in the main vestibule of the library, it's off to your left, and there, there's a classroom. It's actually almost nearly sound. All you hear is muffles coming out of there. There's no speaker, there's no intercom system in there, there's no telephone system in there. That room has already been built, that is being used for additional services for the after-school part of it. And there's no way to communicate with anyone in there. On 2 occasions, I don't blame the teacher because he didn't know. He allowed a student to be released. Now, there was, I guess, a miscommunication or maybe a training issue where someone is thinking that a shelter-in-place is more of a lockdown, whatever is going on there. So the 2 students were dressed to go back into the room. That would be more of a lockdown perspective versus a shelter-in-place. One student accompanied my daughter, who was accompanying a little boy to go to the nurse. So they get sent back in. They're in there. They still don't know what's going on. Second time, the teacher says to the boy, "Okay, go ahead, go to the nurse." He's in the hallway, still not over at that point. He's getting sent back in again. So there are issues that if this was a lockdown, and if this was something that maybe could have been much more serious, if this wasn't just a hunter, which if anybody doesn't know, it is hunting season. Yes, they will be out there. And, you know, he or she could have been a major issue. And kids being in the hallway when they shouldn't be, or staff not knowing when they're allowed to be, that's another major issue, security issue. Not having the communication available is a major security issue. And with that classroom being utilized for after hours, when it's now at the end of school, and other classrooms that do have communication devices available could be used for that until a communication device is put in that room. I would suggest maybe that's another avenue to review. I know this school takes security very seriously. There are some things, this is a different topic, but somebody mentioned security, so just something popped up in my head. Doing trainings within school systems, the windows, the doors are all numbered, which I'm not sure if anybody knows that. The numbers are, when you're in a heightened state of awareness of the situation, are not big enough. So that being said, when you're, even if it's a simulation rounds that are going off, big explosives that are going on, you're forced to run, you know, a little bit to get there. You have to go through a window to get in, and you're like, okay, what's your classroom that you're in? So you're not going to, you don't know, because you're not looking for that little number at the top. You need something a little bit more substantial, clearer, maybe in a different color, brighter to understand it's in, both inside and outside, because if you're inside clearing those hallways, you need to be able to say, hey, I'm passing this room, or I have after shooting in that room, or I'm killing. And that helps to funnel everything down. But just to get back to the other topic, so that was, it was just some of the things that was an issue for me. And I understand it was a little more heated yesterday, but that is not solid. So I do appreciate being able to talk tonight. I can go on, I don't know if I'm missing anything.
I know we had this and other districts on up, and that if children are staffed in the bathrooms, a lot of times they not do the announcements and stuff in there. And people are coming out of the bathrooms not having any idea.
Not having any idea.
It was just like.
Now they're going to drill, they have no
And
idea.
I know of staff that were getting yelled at. You know, like, this is what we need to do. You know, and that had to be addressed. You had to get speakers, you had to get bells, you had to get all these things, and students that are very impaired, you had to get the strobe lights and those kinds of things to walk to know people that there's an issue. But there's many different. As the further we get into this, now we have to do things we have our
That is correct.
plan in place, and now that it's all specific.
That being said, it's some things that we've known about, and there's liabilities to knowing about things and not just saying, oh, we'll have a plan in place to get to it, and then something happens, knowing that the plan is in place and that hasn't been addressed for instance, this room was built with no communication device. That, and I don't mean to say this so it comes off argumentative in any way. There is an extreme liability on everyone. It unfortunately it comes right up to the superintendent's head himself. You know, civil liabilities, potential criminal liabilities, failure to act, things like that. And we've all seen with the volume that they're doing to all these people, and it's always the it'll never happen here, or we're just going through. Well, that maybe was not a drill, that was maybe, thank God it was nothing more serious. But that can happen, that can happen tomorrow, 2 weeks from now. We don't know, and we shouldn't be thinking about it as if, okay, it's not gonna happen. Additionally, and I hate to call some people out on it, not that I know them individually, but if there is a speaker, which I know there is a speaker in the library, or just outside the library as well, it would then be, if they continue to use that room, the librarian's responsibility to notify the teacher, or that maybe utilize that at the time. They wear a lockdown drill or shelter in place, just so that teacher knows. And additionally, if she's doing library duties in a different room, then another staff member needs to know, okay, librarian Smith is busy. It's my job as, Mrs. whatever Jones to take over and do that and notify that person in that room. So there has to be a lot of overlaps, fail safes for a lot of things. So that way we can always, when it happens, it's never a good time.
I want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. I know that we did have a plan, and this is not an excuse, but everything's been very backordered. So the speaker from the library should be run into the rooms. That way the announcements can be there. The actual speaker that's compatible with the system is on order, and we're waiting for that, along with their telephone. So what I'm going to work with technology is to find the telephone that's in an area that maybe we can take it out of. That way there is one. The other thing that ordinarily happens on a drill, and then like you said, that hysteria takes over in real life event, but we do use the Share 911 app. Yes. And so that, like, if you've ever been in a room with someone that has a cell phone that's connected to that, you can't talk to anyone else when that's going off until you actually acknowledge. So that teacher should have gotten that on the phone. I think that in this case, and again, no excuse, and these are things that I'll work with Mr. George to be able to work with the administrative team, because we can do better. You're absolutely right. But being able to make sure that all the teachers are trained, and that what ended up happening was, because lighting is on 2 different bell schedules in the preschool, I do believe that there was a couple of steps that were missed, and we can do better, and we have to do better to keep everybody safe. So again, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and it's something that I'm going to tackle tomorrow as soon as I come in working with technology and the administrative team. I'm meeting with everybody tomorrow. The administrative team, we meet each day after the Board of Education, so this is certainly going to be a topic of conversation for us.
Can I ask a question to go along with what you say? So some of the staff weren't just Manchester staff, it was YKID staff, which is a separate entity. Are they trained properly on our protocols on what to do in the shelter in place?
I can look into that to be sure, but in past experience, they would be, because they sign off on the same policies and procedures. But you do have to remember that they're a third-party organization, so we cannot hold them to the letter of a contract. We can hold them to the letter of what's required by code. It's something that I'll look into and be able to see if make sure that they are trained in those procedures.
And our subs as well.
The subs definitely are.
I mean, a letter of contract, a letter of code, but also let them know that there's a little on their part as well, the liabilities of, I understand they may be, a part-time or assistant, but they're responsible just as much as anybody else that's in that school, because something happens, it's their responsibility. I understand they're not law enforcement, I understand they're not firefighters, they're not the ones that are trained to run into the burning buildings, not the firemen. Regardless, the adults and the care of our children is in their hands, and they are responsible. So they have to step up as an adult to do the right thing. So I'd be happy to talk further, exchange email, whatever, make sure they contact.
Can I just add one thing, please? As a temporary solution to, I know you discussed the app, are portable radios an option for staff? And do staff even want to carry something like that?
We do. We have walkie-talkies, and then we also have, like, the phone would be able to, we just need a port. They're VoIP, so as long as there's a computer in there and there's an Ethernet port, we can get a phone to configure in there. So that's step one, which we can do that tomorrow morning. I can have
I believe there actually is a computer in there, there was a teleprompter or Jeff Morgan in there, something like that. So as long as there's something wiring going through, it's very easy to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have my word. We're going to take care of this first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Any items not agenda? Bring our attention. It's been a great meeting. Really enjoyed the inputs and stuff. Yeah, we'll get it up next. All right, see what else have any closing comments? All right, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? All right, see you in November.
Thank you for coming, Kate. I